both had an immense passion for Africa. When they met, actually, Will Rutkeen was in the UK, based in the UK, and he was running what was basically Uber before Uber. I mean, there was such a creative duo. This is called Snack Attack, where they were delivering meals to people in the Battersea area on motorbikes. Ben, on the other hand, was in Zambia, and he was flying microlights, selling microlights, and teaching flying lessons, which is a little bit of a terrifying thought, because this is a photo of him attempting to land a microlight on a moving vehicle. It did not go very well. But anyway, they met in the late 1980s, and they just had this incredible mutual passion for Africa, and they wanted to do something about it. So this is the photo of the first team that they had together, the very first Tongabezi team, and there's Ben, who was my father, and Will. And this is what Tongabezi looked like before any building, before, you know, we'd even cleared the space. So this is the very beginning. Tongabezi then, this is the first face of Tongabezi along the river, with Will's dog here, Tota. And it's really incredible to think about how far we've come in the last 30 years. We've been through a lot, we really have, but from this tiny space along the riverbank, one property, open rooms, you know, little thatched rooms, to this, which is what we look like today. We've just spread our wings so much. It's so beautiful, and it's all been made possible by people like you around the world, supporting us, sending us guests, but also by our team on the ground. So I'm just going to do a little breakdown of what the lodge looks like at the moment, and this is where we are, right on the Zambezi. We are very close to Victoria Falls, so that is one of the main reasons that people come to visit this part of the world, is to see the falls. And we're also a really great entrance into a lot of the safari spaces within Zambia and around Zambia as well. So that I'll talk a little bit more about that later, and about our exciting new partnership with Green Safaris. But meanwhile, I just want to cover a few of the changes that we've made in the comparison. So this, for example, is something that is brand new. Just like Anna said, many of the parts of Tongabezi are completely changed from where we started. But then you have our pool, one of our swimming pools, which has been there since the beginning. So this is an incredible throwback photo of the Tongabezi pool. Even when Tonga had bucket showers and tiny, you know, just the river cottages, the pool was a very ambitious statement, saying that Tonga was there to last, and that we were going to be just growing and improving over the years. So you can see quite big changes. This is one of our dining decks and our expanded private dining spaces. At the moment, Tonga is closed. SINDABEZI Island is open for local guests. But having a look at this photo, and I will come back to this with our initiatives for when we reopen for international guests and for local guests, you can see that the way that Tongabezi is naturally laid out involves quite a lot of space and a lot of privacy. And that makes us really fortunate for the future, because it means that we are in a very strong position for keeping our guests safe and developing the structures in place that we'll need to look after our team and our guests in the long run. Here's the second pool, our lap pool, another big change that has come through in the last few years. Then SINDABEZI Island. So SINDABEZI Island was an initiative that came through in 1992. You can see it's a beautiful spot. It's only 15 minutes away by boat from the main lodge. It's completely private, 5 rooms, which means for guests who are wanting to move their isolation with them when they eventually do feel safe to travel again, this is a really wonderful option. And that's why we've opened SINDABEZI earlier than Tongabezi, because it's a lot easier to control the safety aspect. So right now, guests are taking it completely privately. So you have a fully private island just for your family. This is what we used to look like. And I know one of Honor's favorite photos, so I had to include it. The Tongabezi family is obviously made up of our international supporters, our local team, but also to an extent our wildlife and our wild spaces. This is Horace, our resident hippo. He is still around, although he spends less time on the island now and more time with his girlfriend. And then here you go, you can see the difference between the rooms from then, and I think that was in the early 2000s, so it wasn't that long ago, and now this is the honeymoon room at the end of the lodge, at the end of SINDABEZI. During this time, we are trying to utilize the time when our lodge is quiet, and a lot of that has been going towards building, development, upgrades, the kind of things that we can do to keep our team working, to look after our team, and also to benefit our future guests. So this is the brand new swimming pool and the new decking. You can see a lot of the other rooms have also had their decking redone, the interiors, just basically having a little bit of love and care to prove our commitment and our investment for future guests coming in. Livingstone Island was the third part of the Tongabezi dream, which is the activity right on the edge of Victoria Falls. The activity itself hasn't changed much since the beginning because the island is a National Heritage Site, so we're here to look after it and to have as little impact on the island itself as possible. So the idea is that guests visit the island, they go for a swim on the edge, on the very, very edge of Victoria Falls, if it is possible. They have a meal, which is cooked on the island by our team in a kitchen which is entirely removable, so that it leaves no negative footprints. But one of the most exciting changes actually in the Livingstone Island story has happened in the last year, which is that we have moved our launch site. And this is worth knowing about because guests used to always come through the Royal Livingston, which is right over here, and they would walk through the hotel and then they'd be picked up. But now we are actually building our own launch site. It's going to be a beautiful big space. We're hoping for a cafe, a little environment to promote the community works that we're doing in the area. Tongabezi has a lot of community initiatives, but not all of them are focused at Tongabezi itself. We thought that it was important to also put that energy and love and support into the community surrounding Livingstone Island. So the Makuni community there also, they receive a percentage of the funds from Livingstone Island, and it goes into building classrooms, teachers' houses, and supporting healthcare initiatives in that space. So we're hoping that the new launch site is going to be a really great place to educate people about that and to get people involved. But the activity itself remains just as thrilling and completely safe as always. Then experiences, again, these haven't changed over the last 30 years, except that we've gotten a little bit more skilled at making them perfect. We have removed canoeing, which is something that we used to do at the very beginning, and we've left that to the professionals because the hippos are our favorite neighbors, but they're also our most difficult ones. But activities like the island picnic, the sand bar, floating sampan, this is a private dining experience for guests. Again, in the future of travel, depending on what people are looking for, activities like this are really perfect because they enable completely private moments on the Zambezi. We also have a very big health and well-being focus. This is something that Ben was extremely passionate about, which is why we have a whole gym and a private instructor who takes yoga classes on the decks. We also have all of these private dining spots around. One of the focuses that we're going to be bringing to Tongabezi when we do eventually reopen, and we're ready for whenever that is going to be, is going to be redesigning our dining structure. So from the chefs in the kitchen and the setup of where they stand and how they interact to how we serve the food, you know, we're looking at all of that again, just to make sure that we are taking the suggested steps to protect our guests and our community as well, because here is a photo of Honor. Sorry, I love throwing this photo in here. Honor and my father and the Malawian dhow, which is an island, river picnic experience. But no, anyway, so the community, one of the important things that we really need to think about once we start taking guests again is going to be that the coronavirus numbers in Southern Africa really are very low. They're still very low. A lot of papers are coming out. A lot of people are trying to figure out exactly why that is. And obviously I'm not an expert, but what that does mean is that we have a real responsibility to think about our community when we start taking guests in. Obviously we want to protect our guests, but we also want to ensure that guests coming in from around the world are not bringing anything that is likely to then really hit our vulnerable community. And we are the gateway there, the protection. And so that involves really thinking about the structures that we have in place, taking guest details when they come, so that when they leave, you know, we can ask if they're feeling okay. We make sure that they know to keep open communication, so that we can just protect everybody. And that comes under the spirit of Tongabezi, which has been there from the very beginning. Tujatani, let us all hold hands together. It's not just the name of our trust school, which is a few minutes away from the lodge, and guests are always very, very welcome to visit. It is also the heart of what makes Tongabezi so special. It's our team, it's our community, it's the family of people who have been with us often since very close to the beginning. So this is Zui, he's our head chef. He started with us in 92, 93, and when he started, he didn't know how to cut an onion properly, you know, and now he's running our whole kitchen team and he's incredible. Fabius, who's one of our senior guides, he started as a handyman, he did all of his training through us, and his daughter Ophelia, who's also come through and was a bartender. Chande, who I speak about a lot, who, you know, is one of our most intelligent guides. I mean, the things that he knows is incredible. And he tragically lost his leg to diabetes, but he's still one of our most important team members, and we've been there to support him through that process. And Honor, team members like Honor from around the world who are not on the ground anymore, but are still such a big part of the Tongabezi family and can carry our message out. People like me, people who just are representatives of the fact that Tongabezi is very special because of its people, because of its relationship with the community, because of what we bring. And we're really hoping that when guests start traveling again, they will be thinking about responsibility, social responsibility. They'll be thinking about the environment. They'll be booking places that really care and really make a difference. And just putting their support in those spaces. Yeah, so I mentioned me. Here is a photo of me at the very beginning in the first Tongabezi Trust School class. Here is also a photo of Davison, who is now a valet at Tongabezi, whose father, Moyo, is the Tangala House boat driver and guide, and has been with us. Moyo and his brother built Tongabezi the first year. They came with my father and Will from Lusaka. They're in that first photo of everybody on the vehicle. And it's just the, okay. I think I put these in slightly the wrong order, but again, evidence of the people who've been there since the very, very beginning, the fact that we're a family, that is me. And you can feel it when you come to stay and when guests come. And this is why we have such a responsibility in this difficult time to really look after our team, because they are the reason that we have gotten to the place that we are. And they rightfully feel proud of our achievements and are a part of what is so important about Tongabezi. And so now we might be going through a slightly difficult time. It's horrible for so many people around the world. Travel is really changed. But Tongabezi has been through many floods. We've been through another one this year. This photo was taken this year. We are we've just come out stronger. As much as possible, we've come out stronger from these experiences. So, and we've gone to look for the little moments of joy in them as well. So here is our crocodile in the flooded fire pit that is supposed to be a fire pit. And part of coming out stronger is looking after our community. And so initiatives like going into the local community, finding vulnerable elders, finding vulnerable children who would usually be going to the school, and making sure that people have the food, the education about coronavirus that they need, access to sanitization. We might not be open, except for SINDABEZI at the moment. We might not be open, but our team is still doing the job that needs to be done. And a very large part of that is due to the support that we now have from our greater family, which is Green Safaris. This is a change that happened at the very beginning of this year, and obviously it was going to be a big, exciting, newsworthy event. Obviously, everything else that has happened this year has very much overshadowed that, but we are still really excited. And in fact, we're so blessed to have become a part of this family at a time when we really needed the support, and a lot of the decision making, a lot of the structures that we might not have been able to manage ourselves have been put in place and managed by Green Safaris. And so elements like making sure that our staff is still funded at the moment, even though technically there are no guests in house. We are looking for new ways. We're looking out of the box as much as possible for ways to support them. One of the things we've been thinking of is every one of the Green Safaris properties. So Green Safaris is a collection of beautiful properties around Zambia and one in Malawi. All of them have a sustainability focus, a community focus, and this focus doesn't just go away now, even though we don't have guests coming in to support it. So one of the things we've been looking to doing is taking the projects that we have in place for the community, such as the school, for the environment, such as replanting trees at one of the other properties, Kaimawa, having a community farm at Ila Safari Lodge, taking those and making them into a way for our team to stay employed and give back to the community. And so we're currently working on adapting what our team would usually be doing, and making sure that the community and our team and everyone is supported during this time. I am still very much new to a lot of the Green Safaris specific details. So if those are your questions, I can send you the answers. But otherwise, I think the main thing to know right now is that we've had 30 incredible years. We have some really wonderful celebrations happening. If you get online, if you follow our Facebook, check out for our newsletters. We're sharing throwback images to show you exactly how we've grown through the years. We're sharing all our stories, and we really want you to get involved in that as much as possible as well. And then outside of that, learn a bit about our new family, Green Safaris, and just remember to remind your clients, once travel opens up, how important it is to be supporting companies that really care and that make a positive impact on the places that they are based and on the people and the wildlife. Okay, I think that's me done.
Thank you, Tash. That's amazing. I loved seeing, I think everyone, and I had a couple of text messages throughout saying they loved seeing the pictures. So I think it's really nice to see that history. I remember chatting to somebody who gave me a story that before Will actually arrived in Zambia with Ben to find that Tongabezi spot, that he was traveling around with a massive suitcase of money. And that's how he had the money to then pay for the land together with Ben. And you sort of have these pictures because it's such a long, you know, it's even before my time, if you like, that you sort of, well, not my time alive, clearly. But it is, to be fair. But
my time alive.
Imagine nowadays carrying, I mean, obviously with Zimbabwe's history not so long ago, you imagine those suitcases full of money.
I mean, there are so many stories. It's just crazy. You know, when they started building on Tongabezi land, there was an unofficial ruling that non-Zambians couldn't own land on a Zambian border. So even though they knew that that was in the process of being changed, they had literally no proof that the work that they were doing on that land was going to benefit them in any way. It was a complete risk. So that bag of Will's money could have just gone to nothing, and they kept building anyway because they were so excited. And that is the kind of like passion and optimism and character that carried Tongabezi to where it is now.
So in the spirit of that, for anyone that has joined us today who has been at Tongabezi, visited Tongabezi, like you, Sally, like many of you, in fact, it would be amazing if you could dig out some of your pictures, even if they're from recently, and just, if you wouldn't mind, you can just post them on your social media and tag Tongabezi, because it's also creating a lovely picture over the 30 years. So everyone's input is very welcome. So now comes questions. We've got one question here that just says, and I know you've touched upon it, Tash, but it's always good to just summarize a little bit. Can you give a general view on the current corona situation in Zambia? I know you've already touched upon it, but just a summary would be great, just to recap.
I can give a slight summary. Unfortunately, I'm not there. Zambia has dealt with it similarly to a lot of African countries, in very, very well in certain spaces and not so well in others. But what is basically happening is that they have rules about the number of people who can go out in groups unless you're a family. Everyone has to wear masks. They aren't really taking international people at all. They did have a period of time where you had to be quarantined in a government hospital, but that's now over. And now it fluctuates a lot, but mostly if you fly in and you have a reason to be in Zambia, you have to designate a isolation spot as to where you're going to be staying for the next week, and that is what is happening at the moment. But people are really hopeful about this changing and Zambia becoming a lot more open, because nearby countries are doing it. South Africa's taken quite a radical approach, which is really not working. And we're hoping that Zambia is going to learn from that. So we're very optimistic about international travel, but obviously not anytime in the near future. And Zambia's they are putting in the processes. They really are putting in the processes to protect travelers when they do arrive. So temperature checks, and I mean, they had those even originally before they closed. Just keeping track of guests as they come in.
Brilliant, thank you, Tash. And we'll also keep you up to date as things go. I mean, it changes all the time. Yeah. It'll also be very dependent on how things are on our side of things. So we'll definitely keep you up to date on that. I've got another question for you, which is, what activities are included within the rates?
So many. Anything river based, basically. So we have a fleet of boats, incredible guides. If you want to go on a safari cruise, on a sunset cruise, those dhows that I think I briefly skimmed over with the lovely photo of Honor, the picnics on the river, on the islands, visiting Victoria Falls. So guests pay park fees, but our guides will drive them and walk them around. Same with the Mosi-oa-Tunya National Park. If you want to do a game drive through the park, it's all herbivores, but rhinos are herbivores, so it's quite exciting. Then any of those activities that we can run ourselves based at the lodge, and visiting the markets, visiting Simonga village, which is where many of our staff live or historically did live. So you are actually being guided through the village by the locals, and most importantly, visiting the Tongabezi Trust School, which is a 2-minute walk. And the kids are incredible performers. They are national champions at traditional dancing, drama, and poetry. They love putting on a performance. And it's a really great way to keep culture and heritage alive in Zambia and to support it through the children.
Thanks, Tash. And then on that note, it says, can you do the same activities at SINDABEZI as at Tongabezi?
Yes, so you can do all of the same activities. The only limitation is that if you're at SINDABEZI, obviously you have to be back on the island before dark. So one of the other activities, which I did not mention, the lunar rainbow. It's very seasonal. It depends very much on how high the water is and whether we have a full moon. It's a really wonderful activity which takes guests to the Victoria Falls, and they sit and they watch the lunar rainbow. That obviously wouldn't be possible because it's after dark. But if you are on SINDABEZI, you have access to the whole of Tongabezi Lodge as well. So the 2 pools, the gym, any of the main areas at Tonga, they're available for SINDABEZI guests, but Tongabezi guests cannot go to SINDABEZI Island because it's fully private.
Brilliant. You've just answered the next question, which is, can guests from SINDABEZI use Tongabezi's pool? There is actually also there's a little bathroom to the right with showers, I believe, at the lap pool.
Yeah.
There's also a couple of changing room to small shower room toilets by the reception area too. So even if you were leaving that day, you can still go and hang out by the pool and then freshen up for your flight later on, depending on obviously the flight schedules as they start up again. Another question that we've had is a recommendation of nights. I think it's a difficult one to answer because obviously there is so much to do. And certainly my parents who visited, they stayed for about 7 nights and said, my gosh, we were busy all the time. We didn't even relax. So, and we were actually, unfortunately, they've had to postpone, but we did actually have some guests, a couple who were coming for 8 nights because they just wanted somewhere to relax. I think looking at it realistically, people want to go on safari. So we would say a minimum of 3 nights, purely because that's 2 full days. And ultimately, the one thing that I think anyone misses out on when they've come for 2 nights, potentially even 3 days, is spending time in their room, just enjoying the views. Because, you know, it is an incredible view from your room. All the houses have got plunge pools now. So I think 3 to 4 nights in this day and age, and certainly looking forward, there's a lot of talk about people traveling at a much slower pace.
Yeah.
So this is almost a really lovely end to your safari where you can just relax and take some time out before you go home, or at the beginning just to acclimatize. Do you not think, Tash?
That's literally perfect. That was exactly my answer, but much better worded.
Are the rooms in the family houses connected for families with younger children?
Yes. So one of the things that I didn't put in this presentation so much, because I didn't want to run over well into time, and I knew that quite a few of the people joining probably know Tongabezi, is the differences between our rooms. We do have a document that I put together with each room and what it does or doesn't have compared to the other rooms at Tongabezi, SINDABEZI, broke them all down. The dog house and the nut house are our family rooms, and the bedrooms are connected for both of those. So for families with children, the garden house is perfect if you're a nervous traveler because it's fully enclosed. It's the only room at Tongabezi that doesn't have a river view, but one of the reasons for that is so that guests have this beautiful rock wall surrounding them. They have a pool, they have a play area, the bedrooms are completely, you know, in that little space together, and they can feel very safe. The dog house is great for similar families, but it's also perfect for multi-generational couples, you know, families or 2 couples traveling together, because it's kind of like a little crab where the one bedroom is here, second bedroom is here, they're connected by a little pathway, and in the middle is this big beautiful relaxing space with a pool and a fireplace and a dining area. It's like your own private little camp.
And what's going to happen with Tangala going forward? Is that still going to be rented, or?
So yes, Tangala is still going to be rented the same way that it has previously, which is that when we desperately need it, guests can't have it. But other than that, it's pretty much available all year. It's going to come with the same team. The dogs will still be there. Yeah, nothing will be changing on the ground there.
And as an alternative to Tangala House, I always think that private SINDABEZI Island is really lovely. You know, it's the perfect place to just go and relax with a family. What are the age limits for the different areas? Tongabezi, Tangala, and Sinda, please.
So so Tongabezi, so these are all very much guideline ages. We don't like to drop below them, but for special cases we will. It involves a conversation. For Tongabezi, 7. For SINDABEZI, I believe at the moment we've moved it to 15, but it might be 14. We're trying to merge our age limits and our structure with the Green Safari structure. Tangala, though, has no age limit. It's the most accessible space. Babies, everything welcome. I mean, it was our family house, is our family house growing up. So everything in there is appropriate for all ages.
And then, so we've got, how many people can the family houses sleep? So I was going to say, you know, the dog house, we can put a couple of extra beds in. So it's ideal for a family of 6 who actually want more of a lodge environment than, let's say, Tangala, which is very much a private house environment. Tangala is sort of 6 to 8, isn't it? Yeah.
So the dog house, you can get 6 if you have younger children. You can get 6 with older children, but it obviously is going to be a little bit more of a cram. Tangala up to 8, and again, you can have an extra bed in one of the rooms.
Sometimes I have to say, I think the dog house is bigger than my house.
The dog house is huge, but we get so twitchy about blocking the view with beds. We won't.
But it's a nice big space.
And what we have done before is put beds into the social space, so it almost becomes 3 bedrooms. But then obviously you lose the social space just being a relaxing zone.
Which is a nice hangout place.
Yeah.
With a lot of competition, because that has been growing increasingly over the years, what sets Tongabezi apart? I think a lot of it is knowing. I mean, you know, I've spent a lot of time getting to know all of our competition in the area, and certainly, you know, over the years, Ben, I think, was always quite. He was very relaxed about it, and I would sit there and go, "Oh gosh, there's another place." But I think it was partly having a real pride in Tongabezi that set us apart. Not only that, but the team. I mean, as I said at the beginning, have been with Tonga for 16 years, and I'm still a baby compared to most of it. And I think that brings it to the team that really makes it stand out, because wherever you stay, you are obviously going to get Zambian or Zimbabwean hospitality. But a team that has kind of grown and grown and grown over 30 years, 25 years, 20 years, has got this really amazing confidence when looking after guests that really sets us, I believe, apart from most other places, especially newer ones, because they just don't have that history and that story. And so I think a big part of what makes us really stand apart is the team.
I think that's exactly it, is that we have a team who, because they've been a part of the Tongabezi history, and even if it's not them personally, a lot of them, their mothers, their uncles, their sisters, their cousins, you know, it literally is a family of people working at the lodge. They not only feel a sense of ownership, but they know that they're working for a company that is looking out for them and looking after them. And the school is a big part of that, because we're educating their children, and the school is it's free education. It's not just free education, it's food, it's the students are often supported through high school and university. They come, you know, with their degrees. There is a sense of Tongabezi is genuinely doing everything that we can to contribute to our community and this beautiful wild space that we live in. And I think that more and more, or I hope that more and more travelers now are going to be taking that into account. They're going to be trying to figure out who is genuinely doing the work and putting the work in, and who's greenwashing or you know, selling a story that's not what they're actually putting into the community. And I think that makes us stand out.
Definitely. Okay, on a different note, the Green Safaris map shows a scheduled flight between Livingstone and Ila Safari Lodge. Who's operating those flights?
Where are we? Livingstone and Ila. Okay, so again, this is something that I am not an expert on. This map was put together by the lovely Linda for us. I can get more details on those. And also at the moment, obviously, it's going to be very different until travelers come back in. This was the expectation of how it usually works.
Okay, I will look into that for you, Sally. And also, just in terms of Livingstone Island, obviously you've got the Devil's Pool, which is massively popular, and generally you can swim in Devil's Pool between the end of August and December time-ish, depending on water levels. So the question I've had is, can you just explain where Angel's Pool is in relation to Devil's Pool and the difference, if you like, please?
I think that one of the biggest mistakes we have made is not educating people more about Angel's Pool, and not pushing it and not explaining how, I think Devil's Pool just got so much coverage so quickly. Angel's Pool is literally, so if you have the island, I almost want to draw it for you. If you have the island on the very edge of the falls, and this is your island, and you go along the edge in this direction from me. So you're going along to the right towards Zimbabwe, and that's where Devil's Pool is. So guests tend to, you have to go a little bit further back from the edge, you swim along, you get to the smaller island, and you climb into Devil's Pool, which is very, right on the edge, and it's quite a deep pool. Angel's Pool, on the other hand, is towards the Zambian side. It is not as deep, but you don't have to do a swim to get to it. It's only accessible. It only becomes accessible around the times when Devil's Pool is starting to become a bit too deep, because that part of the falls is quite often dry. So actually, most of the year, guests are walking all over Angel's Pool. It's completely dry. We say, look, this is where our pool usually is. There's nothing there. But when the water's a lot higher, that space becomes covered in water, and it is, again, right on the edge. It doesn't have as much of a lip, so they have to be a tiny bit further back, and there's a rope just so that they feel secure. But I mean, I find it just as thrilling. I find it a little bit more thrilling, really. Yeah.
I think it's always a little bit cooler too, because Angel's Pool is also, when Livingstone Island opens up around June-ish, it's always in the colder months, so therefore the water is a little bit more refreshing. But I think it still gives you the same experience.
It does, and if you have a look online, we're starting to try and share Angel's Pool photos. It's very hard to tell the difference when the water's high, except that you're not leaning with your arms over the edge. You're sitting with the edge right next to you.
Yes, I mean, it's nice to just have the option for more swimming, really, over the time that Livingstone Island is open. Okay, this is a nice, unusual question.
Oh.
Have any unusual relationships with wild animals been experienced during lockdown? Obviously, we, for many years, had Horace over the years. That was before lockdown, but that was on Cinder. So have there, obviously, because there's been less people, etc., we've always had Ellies coming in, but has there been anything seen or noticed specifically?
The monkeys are having a lovely time. I keep getting photos of them rolling around in spaces that usually we'd be chasing them out of, just kind of settling in. That photo, which I didn't really spend much time on, which is the crocodile in our fire pit. So the first or second day that the fire pit flooded. So this year, a lot of Tongabezi flooded, which is always a bit of a struggle for the team. Was almost lucky timing because we couldn't have guests anyway. Quite a few of the rooms were underwater, so we had crocodiles really hanging out in that fire pit. We have had them in the other rooms as well. And again, just a lot of elephants, just like Anna mentioned, a lot of elephants coming down on the Zim side much more regularly than they would be.
Brilliant. I've got a little comment from Joanna. She says, my stay at SINDABEZI in 2017 was one of my best life experiences. You're doing an amazing job, and I will always fully support and recommend you. Thumbs up, and can't wait for the borders to open.
Thank you.
I certainly agree. I named my dog Cinder in 2016.
My favorite
to be fair, I think Cinder is an all-time favorite. I remember when I first moved out to Zambia in 2004, I stayed at Cinder when the waters, weirdly in September, it was another period of years where the waters were incredibly high, which also a few years later encouraged the rebuild of Cinder because it did flood. But I stayed at Cinder in Chalet 1, and at the time it was a lot lower, but the waters in September were still very high. So I had a little bit of twigs at the end of my bed, where on the other side of those twigs was a crocodile watching me sleep. And I still to this day have no idea why I even stayed in Africa, let alone managed to survive another 16 years, because I often wonder what I was thinking.
My mother loves this story, which I'm probably going to get wrong because I was a bit too young to remember it, where we all stayed on SINDABEZI together as a family. My sisters and I were sharing a room, and Horace was obviously a big presence on the island a lot of the time, so this hippo wandering around, really quite friendly. there's actually been a book written about him, a children's book, because our chef Simon looked after him. Horace had been attacked by other hippos, and he came to the island for safety, and Simon used to bring all of this grass to the island to feed him and make sure that he was okay, which is probably why he's a bit of a protective spirit. But he is still a hippo. So my mother was still very unhappy when she came to our room in the morning and she found all three of us, and I believe I was probably leading my sisters down to the water's edge as we follow Horace to the water, and he's getting a bit frustrated, and he's opening his mouth and he's gnashing, and we're 5 meters away from this hippo, and and we're like, mommy, look, he's smiling at us. Oh dear.
No, I do. Yes, I think that when you're blissfully unaware, you do very weird things.
Yeah.
I know I have done in my time. So then Xavier also, he says, I guess people will be looking for nature, open spaces, fresh air after being in lockdown for a long time. Have you got any further plans for SINDABEZI in the coming future? It's a very special spot with great memories.
Well, this year has been when we've been making most of the changes, so I think there'll be a little break before we do any more. The pool, which is the most exciting thing, something we've been pushing for a while, and obviously during this corona time, just redoing all of the rooms as much as we can, redoing the flooring, just kind of getting everything up to a different kind of standard. I think in the long run we might want a bigger pool space, but for now, no, Cinda is perfect where she is.
And every year that I go back, I hold on to the one palm tree that is.
Oh my gosh! We thought it was going to fall this year with the floods, but it's fine. Everything is fine.
Right, Sally. In answer to your question, in terms of the flights, it's flights as normal between, let's say, Livingston, Lusaka, and Fui. And that's the Ulendo flight between Mfui and Lilongwe to go to Kayamawa, but it's sky trails between the lodges. So from Tongabezi or Livingston to Ila to Basanga, Basanga to Luangwa for their our Luangwa camp. That will be sky trails running those flights. So any details, obviously we can get back to you as and when things open up again and start running. So hope that answers your question. Sally says, thank you, got it, light aircraft. Yes.
Oh yes, lighter. Yeah, you're so speedy on it. Great.
Okay, so I think that might be it on all the questions. Let me just have a quick chat through. So yes, we've said in terms of photos, we'd love to see your photos. You can either share them on social media. As Tash said, it's a big month, and they're going to be doing lots of little things. There's also a photographic competition going on, basically looking at those throwback memories. And if you'd like to take part, I can certainly add a link in the follow-up email that I'll be sending out with rates and fact sheets. But also, if at all possible, we would love for you to encourage your clients to take part, because obviously a lot of you have supported Tongabezi by sending us guests. So it would be really amazing to see some of their memories, you know, things that have made it special for them. So, and other than that, we'd love to see you on the 30th for some drinks and wearing your best wig or hat. And if there are any more questions, you can always email us. I think that might be congratulations on your 30-year milestone, Tongabezi. Keep up the great work. I said to Savi and also Sally, I think it was the same year or same time we had lunch on SINDABEZI, so that was a lovely memory. I think that was already 3 years ago. Anything else you'd like to add, Tash, before we end this?
I think that's it. Just thank you again for your support and for being here today.
And thank you, Tash, for talking today, and thank you everybody for joining us. As I said, next week will be a Zambian ground handlers quiz, so hopefully a little bit of fun next Thursday. Please join us. And if there's any questions, let us know. And we'll speak to you again soon. Thanks very much, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.